coming up.
Wagyu breed is genetically predisposed to marble heavily.
We tried it and we just, man, this is all it's cracked up to be.
I wish every breeder would start using genomics today. Overnight, you can make incredible differences.
If you're interested in becoming a Wagyu breeder, these are the cattle you really need.
See how 4 seed stock producers are elevating high-demand Wagyu genetics to new heights. Next on The American Rancher. Hello and welcome to The American Rancher. I'm Pam Minnick. Wagyu beef has taken the high-end restaurant and farm-to-table industry by storm. But for breeders and commercial cattlemen alike, access to predictable Wagyu genetics has been a challenge. Until now. On August 21st, 4 seed stock producers in Texas will offer premium Wagyu genetics for sale with advanced prediction and calculations, including genomically enhanced EBVs, that are only now becoming available in the U.S. for Wagyu cattle. First, we're in Central Texas to learn the story of the breeders and their passion for improving the Wagyu breed.
In the early 70s, I met a veterinarian up in Georgetown that had the 4 original Wagyu bulls that came over here. I actually bought one of the first 7/8 Wagyu heifers that was born in the U.S.
Tell him what you paid for that.
We paid $13,000 for that heifer and actually sold the first bull calf for $16,000. And that's how we got started. Did our first embryo transfer work at that time and just continued on.
Brandon Baker also breeds high-end Wagyu genetics. He and his family have a long history in the beef cattle industry.
My family's been in the ranching since Texas was still a part of Mexico. My dad was a cow-calf commercial operator for years and years, and so I kind of learned the basics from him. And my uncle, he produced some breed stock, and he kind of introduced me to that. And I was fortunate to be exposed to feeder cattle through my grandfather and another gentleman named Paul Wilkie. And how I got started in the Wagyu business was my brother and I were on vacation in Thailand, and we saw Kobe beef being advertised extensively in restaurants over there. And I kept thinking to myself, you know, is it really all they say it is? So I got online and ordered meat from several different companies. We tried it and we just, man, this is really good. This is all it's cracked up to be. And we noticed we kind of preferred the beef that had come from the black-hided animals. And my uncle, right then after eating it, he said, Brandon, he said, if you're interested in this, I'll spot you the recip cows to get started. And Bubba K right there in Manor, checked him out, had a just solid reputation. So I called him up, bought some embryos.
Wagyu breeder Josh Eilers lives just east of Austin, Texas. There he owns and operates Ranger Cattle, an ever-expanding farm-to-plate Wagyu beef company.
Here at Ranger Cattle, what we do is everything from conception, breeding the animals, all the way to consumption, whether that looks like delivering to a restaurant or a hotel locally. We opened up this tasting room and we gave people access to it every day. From 4 to 7, you can come in and you can buy a steak for all the locals here. Well, word spread quicker than I ever would have imagined. I would have never thought that the public would be so excited about being able to buy beef directly from a ranch. Well, on top of that, they can also buy some of the best beef in America right here from the ranch and actually meet the farmers that created it and hear about all the hard work that went into it, because it does take 3 years going from that conception, the breeding of the animal, all the way to the end product.
Being so close to Austin gave Josh an edge when the pandemic slowed beef sales to hotels and restaurants.
One thing people forgot was just because the restaurants shut down, well, the cattle still had to eat. So being vertically integrated, well, we still had the bills of feeding the animals without all of that income coming in from our traditional revenue sources, such as hotels or restaurants. We opened up an event space out here on the ranch, and we'll host everything from weddings to rehearsal dinners. We'll do drive-ins on Friday nights. We'll host concerts. We're even doing a demolition derby this fall.
In 2010, Ryan Cade and Blake Robinson created RC Ranch in Angleton, Texas, just south of Houston. They also breed high-end Wagyu genetics and operate a successful farm-to-plate Wagyu beef operation.
Today is the first day you can buy our RC Ranch Wagyu beef jerky at 68 HEBs. In September, it's going to roll out to 165 HEBs across Texas. We built our business based on the premise that people care more than ever about where their food comes from. You know, they want to know the story, they want to know how it was raised. We want to be on the front edge of educating that consumer on what good beef is, and not only from those standpoints, but also people want quality. You know, people want a well-marbled, pretty steak. People are starting to understand the Wagyu difference and what makes it special.
And until about 10 years ago, everybody knew what Kobe beef was, but no one knew what Wagyu beef was. So now it's very common for everybody to, go into a restaurant and see Wagyu beef, and they said, that's what I want.
In my personal opinion, Wagyu genetics are going to become more and more a part of the national lexicon in the beef industry. It has, to this point, extensively influenced the high-end market, but I think as we move forward, it's going to affect the whole national beef production, improve the quality overall and the healthiness of beef.
Actually, our goal when I first started getting interested in the cattle was to upgrade American beef. What we were getting in the grocery stores, to me, was just not satisfactory. And I knew that this breed could upgrade the product that the consumer was buying in the grocery store.
If you put a Wagyu bull on Angus cattle or Shorthorns or even Charolais that are producing choice beef, you're going to upgrade it one level. A lot of them are going to come up to prime. Consumers just want to buy a good piece of beef, and it comes out of a good prime carcass. And if it's Wagyu, it even has more taste to it.
All ranchers know that ingenuity and innovation can mean the difference in surviving and thriving. While innovations in the Wagyu breed have helped these producers thrive, they focus on profit traits that every producer looks for.
I always go back to the Lassiter philosophy of cattle raising, which I've found extremely helpful over the years. You have to have a good, functional, all-around animal. They've got to produce a good calf. They've got to breed every year. Every 365 days, that cow brings me money. She either brings me a calf or she goes to the market, but she's producing. They've got to be well suited for their environment, but I can't ignore what brings me to the dance: the meat quality, the feed efficiency, the yield grades, the extremely positive attributes that the Wagyu cattle offer.
Which brings up a myth that Wagyu cattle must have special care and that they're difficult to raise.
That's not a true statement at all. You've seen how we raise. Ours are out here in the pasture. Sometimes we don't see them for days.
We wait for them to come out of the brush to see what kind of calf they got. We have a lot of brush pasture. They're tough little cows. They can handle anything. We've raised them from South Texas to Canada and shipped them back and forth, and bought cattle in Washington State and shipped them all the way to Florida. So they're sturdy little cattle, and they can handle it.
Up next.
I wish every breeder would start using genomics today.
Right.
Yeah, that's how overnight you can make incredible differences.
Genomics are advancing Wagyu genetic predictability to levels unheard of just a few years ago. That story is next on The American Rancher. Welcome back to The American Rancher. When Bubba Kay began breeding Wagyu genetics in the 1970s, he had very little data to back up his breeding decisions. Today, advances in DNA technology are used to calculate genomically enhanced estimated breeding values, which are far more accurate than pedigree alone.
All they had was marbling at that point, and that's what we bred for, was marbling. And we wound up with a lot of little cows and small bulls, and we couldn't get the commercial man to buy them at first because they were so small. But later, when the genetics came in, back in the early 90s, when we got some new genetics in, we got some bigger cattle. And it's just taken years to breed that into and keep the high marbling that the Wagyu cattle are known for.
Prior to starting Ranger Cattle, I was actually an Army Ranger. And I was one for 5 years, did 4 combat deployments. And one thing that I really learned from the Rangers and the leaders there was, hey, if you're going to do something, do it right. Otherwise, don't waste your time. So that's the exact approach that I've taken with Ranger Cattle and how we breed our animals, and even the quality of product that we produce at the end of the day is, hey, I want to make it the best possible. And through genomics, we're making Wagyu cattle more predictable for the entire cattle industry as well as end consumers. So based off of a trip to Australia probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and seeing how much they were able to capitalize off of genomics and using them, and how great they were being able to make their herd and create beef as far as on a quality standpoint, I came back to the United States and said, we have absolutely got to adopt all these new technologies, especially if we're going to continue to spearhead the beef industry in the United States. We got to continue to be progressive, especially adopting these new sciences and collecting carcass data and coupling those two things together to really identify, hey, what is our single best bull we're producing? What is our single best cow? And then, cross those two to create even better offspring every single year. So a ton of artificial breeding. But that's how you're able to get ahead, especially with the use of genomics these days. You can really target what bloodlines you want to use and use the actual science behind it to make your breeding decisions.
Right. And ultimately, that should be the goal of all the breeders.
I wish every breeder would start using genomics today.
Right.
Yeah, that's how overnight you can make incredible differences. Just 3 years ago, we were producing bulls that now I'll look at and I'll say, man, where were we going wrong? We were headed in the complete opposite direction where we should have been going. Animals that we thought were great, just 4 years ago, now are turning out to be not so great. They're average animals. And with those average animals, what's great about our program is we do so much embryo transfer that, hey, just because an animal now we consider average in our herd, well, now she can become a recip. And so it's not a lost animal. We didn't have to completely cull her. She was a good mama and she was very fertile, and that's why we kept her around in the first place. Well, now we can just put an embryo in her and she can have a calf every year just like a good cow should, but she's having a calf that she's not even related to. And so we're able to only pass on the best genetics in our herd. Yeah, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the carcass for us, right? And so we want to produce the most amazing carcass possible, but it's really hard to predict how great a carcass is going to be, and it's pretty much impossible without the use of genomics.
Early on in 2009, when I bought the first embryos, there wasn't just a lot of information to go off of, and not being able to link all that together, you had a hard time making decisions between herds on breed stock. Bubba and I started sending cattle to the Genetic Development Center, which gave us a lot of ultrasound data, a lot of growth data. We got some residual feed take information off their growth safe system. We were able to make a lot of decisions, within our own herds.
The purebred Wagyu herd in the United States has evolved dramatically since the first animals arrived in the 70s. Breeders like Bubba, Josh, Brandon, and Ryan have implemented years of genomic experience to create a high benchmark for Wagyu genetics. Their work helps to set the stage for propagating genomically enhanced Wagyu genetics throughout the commercial beef industry.
When you're looking into the future and you're trying to figure out how you make decisions today to produce the best cow tomorrow, I've always used this analogy with people and compared it to a megapixel in a camera. In 1975, Kodak produced the first digital camera and it had 0.01 megapixel. Back then, it was just pedigree. They had 4 bulls they brought in from Japan in 1976, and that was the best you could decide on. As time went on in the 90s, the cameras got better, and that was your basic EPDs, your weaning weights, your yearling weights, and then ultrasound started to come in, and you started to collect that data set. Time went on, the digital cameras got better, Now you can buy one with 29, 35 megapixel. Well, that's your genomically enhanced EPDs. You're tying a DNA sample back into the data set and linking all that together, and it's giving you a much clearer picture of what you have today and where you're trying to go. It's your picture of the future is much more crisp than it was back in the 1970s.
So not only do we plan on helping to make the entire Wagyu breed better, but we plan on making it more predictable. And what I mean by that is we want the commercial cattlemen to trust in the EBVs and trust in the genomics that we've been using for years and years to really prove out these animals. So it's like, hey, it not only marbles well, but the ribeyes are big and the animal grows, and people feel safe in buying the Ranger cattle genetics because they know how much hard work and how much research and development has gone through the breeding and the upbringing of these animals.
Today, the use of genomically enhanced estimated breeding values, or EBVs, give Wagyu producers twice as much information as making breeding decisions compared to the use of pedigree alone, which has been the practice of U.S. Wagyu breeders for years.
The Australian ABRI use EBV, which stands for Estimated Breeding Value. And an EPD, which is expected progeny difference, is 1/2 of the estimated breeding value. Nowadays, you can look at the genomically enhanced EBVs and understand this is where I'm trying to go and this is what I need to do to get there.
After the break,
When you get into some of the chuck cuts like chuck eyes and Denvers, they may be considered marginal, when you're just talking about USDA choice beef, but when you get to the Wagyu, they're spectacular.
Ryan grills up a Wagyu taste test after the break here on The American Rancher. Welcome back to The American Rancher. Increased consumer demand for Wagyu cattle begins with their predisposition to marbling. Compared to marginal choice cuts of beef from other breeds, the same Wagyu cuts are exceptional. Ryan puts that to a taste test over a hardwood fire.
So we have 2 chuck eyes, a Denver, and some good old burgers. Hard to beat a great cheeseburger. And that's one of the things that's interesting about Wagyu is a lot of times people just think about the ribeyes, the strips, and the fillets, but all the cuts are special. A Wagyu burger is that much better than just a regular old burger. And when you get into some of the chuck cuts like chuck eyes and Denvers, they may be considered marginal, when you're just talking about USDA choice beef, but when you get to the Wagyu, they're spectacular.
A great beef program starts with great genetics. If you don't have the right genetics in the beginning, then all the other things you do, they don't matter. Great feeding programs, maturity, raising them right, none of those things are going to get you the finished product you want if you don't start with the right genetics. Wagyu breed is genetically predisposed to marble heavily, and that is genetic.
Dig in, guys. This is a fun one that a lot of folks don't know about. This is a Denver steak. Denver steak comes out of the chuck.
This tenderloin?
That is tenderloin. Yep.
Can't pass that up.
What's your favorite cut?
Probably the Denver steak. Mine's probably chuck eye. It's like a lot like a ribeye, but I feel like it has a really good flavor.
Well, I always liked tenderloin, but this Denver cut is something new to me. I don't know that I've ever had a Denver cut. It's very, very tasty and flavorful. It eats a little bit like a tri-tip almost is what I would compare it to as far as texture and flavor. Very good.
Wagyu are also known for things like docility. As a breed, I'd say it's pretty much the norm. Also, low birth weight. That's why a lot of other commercial cattlemen and other breeds like to use our bulls is their low birth weights. It's absolutely our goal as a family ranch that every year our genetics get better. And with the science that's available today, there's just no reason that it doesn't. We've got an array of lots going to be available in that sale. We have some really nice females. We have some heifers. We have some pairs. We also have some really neat embryos that we made, kind of sourcing some of the best genetics out there, and those embryos will be, safe in calf, and they'll be 75 to 90 days bred at the sale, palpated and guaranteed to a certain embryo. So those will be some fun lots as well.
For the first time ever, we're really opening up our herd, and we're having a sale on August 21st where individuals from other ranches will be able to come in and buy some of these genetics that we've worked so hard proving out over the years. And as well as that, we continue to plan for years and years in the future of being able to just improve the quality of the Wagyu breed in general. The better we can make every other ranch through using our genetics, the better we are, because if everybody makes money and everyone creates a better product, then the end consumer will start to recognize, oh, Wagyu beef really is that great, and that's going to help us as well in the long run.
Join Bubba Kay, Josh Eilers, Brandon Baker, and Ryan Cade on August 21st in Salado, Texas for their Elite Wagyu Genetics Sale. This is your opportunity to get in on Wagyu profits with the top-of-the-line genomically enhanced Wagyu genetics, some that have never been available to the public before this sale.
If you're interested in becoming a Wagyu breeder, these are the kind of cattle you really need. There are definite donor potential cows in this sale, as well as herd bulls. I would encourage you to come to Salado, Texas on August the 21st. We'll have chefs there preparing outstanding beef product. We will start the sale at 6 o'clock Central Time, and we'll start with the bulls. We'll have 20 head of bulls there that can go on any cow in America. We'll have 100 head of females in this sale, and all of them are going to be genomically enhanced on their EBVs. So if you're unable to attend, you can see the cattle on Superior Click to Bid. All the videos are available. And also we will be broadcast live on SLA TV.
To learn more about the August 21st Elite Wagyu Sale and to register for a buyer's number, log on to superiorlivestock.com or give Robbie Shocker a call. And to find out more about us, visit our website, theamericanrancher.com, or connect with us on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Pam Minnick. For our entire American Rancher team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.